So I'm here in a coffee plantation in Kenya, Nairobi, and Kenyan coffee is considered the best coffee because, as you see, there are three types of beans here in coffee stages. I'm just going to pluck some and show you. So there is a green one, there is a red one, and there's a black one. These two are not selected. This one is selected because this is a labor-intensive collection process. Machines are not used. Everything is hand-picked, and that is the reason why Kenyan coffee is so good. Also, this comes at an elevation of around 1700 meters. It is coming with a lot of water and all. Now, of course, it is a dry season now, but it gets ample amount of water and elevation, which allows the coffee to mature over a period of time. Gives it all its beautiful acidic and oily qualities, what we look into an espresso and the BitterMatrix profile, what we're trying to hit the bittersweet complex. The idea to come here is to understand the grades of coffee. So there are particularly depending upon the size, because this is the fruit, and when I take it out, you will see that there would be basically two husks. I hope I found a pea berry here. So this is a single one. So this is a pea berry. So this is very rare. I don't know, I just got lucky, but generally there are two, and they share the profiles of beans. And generally when this is taken out, you can see it is mucilaginous. So they have to ferment it, remove this mucilaginous, break it, and inside there is the coffee bean which is roasted. So they are collected and de-husked. They are put into water to see the density. The density is more important. The P1 density is one which will go down. P2 is flow in center, and the P3 will float. And the next time comes the size. The size is the size of the beans. There are AA size, which is basically big beans, same size. Then there are different sizes. So generally the density is important. Denser bean is much better than the lesser denser with a good size. So size doesn't matter, no pun intended. So sometimes you get this kind of a, luckily these beans, because pea berry beans, and if this come into the P1 category, these are the best. Idea here of my research, as we know, is to hit the bittersweet complex, which we take in the morning, kickstarting your brain to release the neurohormonal enzymatic complex, which reduces inflammation at cellular level, kickstarts the metabolic fire in them, so that it processes whatever kind of food you eat throughout the day. And it doesn't give you any kind of waste and any kind of accumulation. Not all espressos give us that bittersweet complex. The idea is to find a perfect bean, perfect dense bean, which we can extract this bittersweet complex. The idea here to visit this farm is to come to the best source, the best grade of coffees what we get in Kenya. Kenyan coffee is considered supreme because of its manual labor intensive thing. And probably I'm going to try and get samples of the more denser varieties, P1 in the PB single bean or the double superior A grades. And when I go back, I'm going to roast it for the espresso, and I'm going to see whether we can hit the perfect Ayurvedic profile, the bittersweet profile, the tikta madhur profile, which we are trying to find in coffee, especially in espresso. This is the machine, as we saw on the top. They segregate the beans manually, and the red beans are dropped from the top, which come down, and that there is a small hole so that there is not overloading of this funnel type machine. It comes here, and first the mucilage is broken, the outer covering is broken, and only the white seeds come here. This all is filled with water, and this machine keeps on rolling, as you're seeing in the clip. And the denser seeds, the P1, go down, which are taken out from one of these things. These are collected. This, as you see, is in the center. The P2 comes out from here, and the P3 go out from here. So this is how the sorting of the density is done, and probably after this, they sort it on the size of the coffee beans. Once the P1, P2, P3 are segregated, the huge tanks what you see are for the P1. So they are collected here. They are kept it for 3-4 days. When the fermentation takes place, the mucilage breaks, we get the final product of the coffee beans. And once the fermentation goes out, everything is flushed out and collected. These small chambers, what we see here, which are showing in the clip, are for the P2 and the P3. And each one of them are collected in their individual bed and further processed into the next process of coffee and roasting. So once they are fermented, the P1, P2, and P3 are released in batches through this drain, which you're seeing in the clip. And the water comes through here. And once the batch is there, the water drains through here. They put a bag here, a sack here. So in the sack, all the de-husked, demucilated coffee beans are collected, and the water drains out and taken back to the tank. After this batch is collected of P1, P2 or P3, depending on the batch, it is dried here on this mesh for 21 days. The washed coffees contains approximately 45% moisture, and they have to bring it down to approximately 13 to 11%. If they get good sunny days, 21 days are good enough, else they have to go and do energy intensive process of drying them in hot wind and air, which rises the cost of the coffee. So if they get good sunny days, it's absolutely good to get a naturally dried coffee at 11 to 13%, and after that the coffee becomes like this. Once we break it up, I'll just get the coffee bean, which is done in a machine, which is goes for the final roasting. Coffee beans are dried completely and their moisture is attained. They are put into this hopper. This machine shakes, as you can see in the video, and the dust and all what is collected is thrown out, and the coffee beans are collected up and where it goes into this machine where they are dehusked by a constant shaking, and the final coffee bean inside what we see goes for the next step of roasting. Once the coffee bean is procured, it has to be graded as per the size. Generally the most expensive and sought after is the AA because it is more produced here. But the E is the ear size, is the largest bean, so this will be most expensive depending upon the density. So if we get a P1 density of E, it will be the most expensive. Then the AA, after the AA we get the AB, which is the combination of A and B, and then we get the C variety. These T varieties, what you see are broken varieties. They cannot be sold as entire beans coffee, so they have to be ground and sold. They are still good coffee. And this variety was one which you saw in our first video, was the PB variety. Very extremely rare to find because it is just one bean. And if you get a P1 PB, it will be the most expensive of this lot. After the coffee is graded, it comes into the roaster. We have to preheat this machine till 150 and above. This is at 200 degrees. And once it is preheated, you put in the coffee, the grains inside, which have been dehusked at 13% moisture. It is important that you don't start the machine and put in the coffee because then it gets baked and the moisture starts going on quickly. And once you put in the coffee beans, you have to just keep on checking the roast, kind of what you want. During the roasting process, every bean has got a kind of, after it is roasted, the bean, it has a silver skin, a kind of a covering, which is taken off. This silver skin from superior grade beans is taken and by the other blenders or other roasters and mixed with the lower grade beans to get a good flavor. The beans which are taken off this silver skin, which automatically come up in a machine, then get roasted to get this shiny coffee bean, which tastes amazing, which smells amazing. This is a sample roaster. So first sample is roasted here, and connoisseurs, what we call as a coffee lickers or coffee graders, they will come and they'll tell if the coffee is proper, if they have fermented properly, all the process until now is done proper. It's good enough to go into roasting, and as you can see, as the coffee is getting roasted, it gives a popping sound because the chemicals and all the acidity starts expanding and coming to the surface. And it is almost three types of roast, but what we are looking here at BitterMatrix are medium to medium dark roast, and this is almost a medium roast here until now. And once it gets into the roast, you can see that silver skin coming off automatically, popping off, and if you can collect it, as I said, it is given to the other roasters who blend this with low grade coffee beans to get the flavor of the high grade coffee beans. So finally, I have roasted this P1 AB grade coffee. Though it is not AA, it is P1, so it is more denser. I have gone for the medium to dark roast because that is where I hit the bittersweet complex, the tikta madhur complex of Ayurveda, which gives us the medicinal properties, which hits our brain to secrete a neurohormonal enzymatic intelligence, which tells our cells to kickstart digestion, to remove inflammation, and prepares our body for the entire day to absorb nutrition, assimilate our body, and keep it in status quo, maintaining a dynamism with nature. Again, as I said, BitterMatrix is not about espresso, but about getting this elite bittersweet complex. And I'm also going to get samples of the P1 AA grade medium and medium to dark roast, and I'm going to compare them when I go home and say that if the Kenyan beans P1 AA grades or any P1 grade with proper grind and proper roast can give us this bittersweet complex. Kenyan beans are manually collected. It's a very labor intensive process, and therefore they are priced so high. So is it worth taking these beans to your home and accessing the bittersweet complex, which will give you a lifestyle drink, espresso, and also you can tap into the medicinal properties of the bittersweet complex that this espresso provides. If they are roasted well to the type what I have felt is medium to medium dark, and if we can grind well, and if we can pull it out in the time what we have been recording over our thermal cameras to get the perfect bittersweet complex, and definitely see if I can procure more such beans, and probably we can create a system to access the bitter sweet complex through espresso, because not all espressos provide this kind of a complex. There are only certain espressos where the right from the bean to the pull time should be absolutely perfect, but the bean, the roast are the most important part, and these Kenyan beans I definitely feel are the ones which would give us this profile.